have that flexibility at the end of the day to make the best decisions.
Andrew?
It's going back actually to a conversation that happened between when Jack started talking. Initially, I was like Jack in terms of wanting to rely on professional expertise to really inform the decision. But and the reason for that is when you're doing planning, just like any, and I consider it an art form, as Wolfgang was talking about this gentleman Paul Fensky, who has these almost metaphysical abilities to look at planning matters. Similarly, it's a good idea, you know, if you want something to be great and to have a vision, you can't rely on math to do it. However, there was a very important statement made that by John a few minutes ago, and that is that it would be used to inform the process. And that's something that we as elected officials, you know, we're used to hearing that term, and I think we have to focus on the public forums thing as a tool. Just like anything that you generate with a computer, you know, you're using the computer as a tool to develop something. So what it does is it creates a different context for us with a whole bunch of using math to create a whole bunch of different realities and perspectives that we can use to inform the process. And even a planner or an architect can use this as part of, you know, the landscape in which they're viewing things to pull out human perspectives on various things and make value judgments based on those decisions. Am I losing people here? So, in my view, I think we should be using this, and I think we should focus on this as a tool to inform the process rather than an end unto itself.
So before you, I just want to ask you a question. Can this process be manipulated?
Well, you can adjust the variables at the end point, but as far as we've seen, and that's our understanding now, it can't be. And we may be disproved in this, but that is our understanding at this point.
But back to sort of determining the criteria or the issues that are established in order to arrive at a value system, or who sets those parameters? From the beginning, we have a lot of diverse, kind of what Councillor Lucas was on. You know, we have a diverse range of interests and issues. I hate the word issues, but
yeah.
Well, we have a diversity of views and values and perspectives and passions, and what's really important is in the initial ideation stage is that we bring in all of those different perspectives, so that all of the potential range of values. And it's important also that we be very transparent. And if someone says, "Whoa, my voice is not being represented there," we want to make sure it is. So it's really important.
So that's part of the broad-based initial stage, and the sort of the brainstorming session.
It's public, yeah. And really our goal is to be as transparent as possible, stunningly transparent, may I say, if at all possible, in terms of the process and how it works and how people, are involved in it.
Just another quick question. Since this is sort of a fledgling of yours, would that be too much of an overwhelming task as a first case study versus narrowing it down to, like somebody mentioned earlier, a case study, and use that as the template or the model moving into the bigger, broader brainstorming session?
You mean the community center itself?
Perhaps the community center or
that's managed. That's
I think community center is very much a manageable task.
I guess what real pressing question is it the entire range, umbrella of...
Well, actually, now that you mention it, what we were thinking is that if we could do it with one discrete issue and sort of break it down into different variables, and you could see, yep, this works, look at the, the curve we've got here, it will be available to you. We'll have the platform, and you can begin to use it with other issues. Like, it's not like if you liked us and you liked what you got, then you can say, yeah, we would like to retain them in the future for another issue, and we can build on people's values. We can build on it, so it's not just a one time.
I guess just where I'm going with that is it would be a shame to have this technology disproven because of the difficulty and the number of issues undertaken as a first go, so.
In terms of the community center.
No, I was thinking more of the entire spectrum
Yes.
that, you know, that the brainstorming session may come up with, and then all of a sudden we have what could be a very valuable microeconomic, say, tool that gets lost in the macro span of things. That's all I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, well, I think it's a fair concern, and I think it's one of the things that we thought about when we decided to focus in on a community center issue rather than, you know, a larger package where Cape Letter Curtis might be there with ferry marshalling, might be there with all these other things. I think it's reasonable to restrict it to a smaller issue to begin with. But in terms of whether the community center is too big, I don't think so. I think it's got fairly defined parameters. It's a building on a certain size lot, and there are a couple options there. But the number of variables that are involved with that particular decision are very much manageable from what we've seen.
I'm tending to agree with Councillor Goose that the community centre has progressed to a point where it's an issue of numbers. But I think if we were proceeding forward with economic development committee and plan, that this would be very valuable in terms of kind of getting that process started, giving it a focus to begin with, because it's a big picture issue for sure, with lots of pieces involved, and I think that this could be very valuable to that group.
If I may speak on kind of applying to general issues, it works best if it's specific, or applying values to specific concrete choices. So here, whether we build a large hall or a small hall, it's applying the value of arts to how many square feet are actually going to go into this thing. So it's not so much dealing with values in the abstract and whether we like density or we like jobs kind of as an abstract idea, but how does that apply to the concrete choices that are on the table in front of us? And that's kind of where the software finds value.
I wished you had stated that at the very beginning, because it changes my attitude. If it makes it easier to make or come clear on concrete choices, then actually the community center would be an appropriate example. Not to explore right now what needs. I mean, we have studied that today.
Yeah.
But for instance, right now we have an $11 million price tag, a fairly gold-plated facility. Doesn't even include a library, already at $11 million, at a construction cost of $630 per square foot. If we would have another building built for, let's say, $250 or $300, so we could have double the size, or maybe stay with what we had, but can't include other uses.
Yes.
And that is actually deciding between choices. Building A, B, C, price tag 2 million, 4 million, 6 million. And now what it would mean to your taxes, which one do you prefer? And now, obviously, the least will not provide such and such.
Yes.
And that, if that would give us a fairly undisputable gauging of the public opinion, that would be helpful.
Yeah. I mean, people will dispute it. I'm not going to say that people are not going to object to it, but you'll be able to look and see this is the information which is based on, and here's the best building for $2 million, here's the best building for $4 million, here's the best building for $6 million, and obviously the $6 million building will get more satisfaction, but here's this $2 million building, here's what the best we can do with $2 million, and you'll have that information in front of you.
And the biggest satisfaction is then with the value.
Yes.
I have great satisfaction in something which costs less,
Yes.
and I can do with concrete floors rather than whatever.
Exactly.
And that's one of the values that people can specify, and I may be a person that says, you know what, just give me space. If it's an industrial style building, I'm fine with that. I just want lots of space, and we can build it out later. No, some people might have that perspective, and they can go in and provide that information.
Yes, And we could probably gauge the public's appetite for arts and culture versus recreation.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had lost,
Exactly,
I'm at a
exactly.
complete loss.
Yeah.
That's
So-
it, that's
so-
exactly what it's told us.
So if, for example, you might see at a meeting, you have a lot of people speaking in favor of arts and a lot of people speaking in favor of recreation. You don't know, well, what's most important? But you do this and you realize, well, 70% of the population really support recreation and 30% really support arts. Well, now you have strong information, not just the strong voices, but now you have information about what are the numbers behind those voices, so you can actually make a decision that's based upon the silent voters.
Good. See, sometimes longer talks are better than shorter.
So,
I think if we're kind of coming around to saying let's narrow the scope of the first attempt so that we don't sort of destroy what otherwise could become a great tool to gauge the further issues in the
Along
future.
the way, yeah.
And also your
Yeah.
generosity to realize that we're in municipal constraints mode right now, budgetary wise. I think it's really great to make it less of a burden for you folks to absorb from your business perspective than to have this, in my opinion, very daunting task of trying to assimilate all of those issues.
We would be thrilled to be able to try, I mean, really it is a demonstration project, and, but I've been working with John and this group for the past year, and the more I understand about this algorithm, and it truly is a way of revolutionizing the way we understand dialogue, democracy, decision-making. I think it has global implications, and I'd really like my community to get to be the one to test drive it, so. I like it.
Any further questions? No?
Will you take questions from the forums tonight?
We have some time.
Great.
John, at the presentation we did before,
Yeah.
we had some people in the community gathered and we talked about this process. One of the things that I brought up was, and I think it's just been illustrated here, is discussion among people face to face helps a lot in coming to conclusions. And my concern about the process before I was saying is we have some face-to-face stuff at the beginning where people are talking, and then most of us are going to be sitting at our computer doing stuff by ourselves, maybe with a family member or a friend. But the thing that I think comes to really importance here is the discussion where people start saying, oh, those people in the arts community, I know those people and I respect them and I like the fact that they need this. And so when I'm making my decision, if I'm a jock and I want to have athletic facilities, I'm going to go, well, I remember those people really need a facility. They've talked me into some of these things that are important to them that I think that will make my community better. And so even though I might not use it that much, it's important to me that those people that I've developed a liking for and a deeper knowledge from those community action talks like we were doing at Collins Hall. That's where I'm concerned that I think you need to really build in as much as possible the communication between groups rather than people sitting there making decisions only by themselves, because that's not what's going to make the best community decisions.
One of the things that we'd like to do is maybe not do a resolution necessarily, but a recommendation to staff to pursue public forums ideas vis-a-vis the community center.
We could organize a meeting between public forums and our BCCAC committee
To see if we can go forward on that particular issue.
Yeah.
And that would give the municipality or council an idea if this is a useful idea or not to pursue. So I'd be prepared to put forward a recommendation, or it's not a resolution, or Tim will put it forward.
I will put it